Good afternoon and welcome to Have Game Will Travel. My name is Bennett Newsome, also known as DamnitBennett on the internet. I am the esports strategist here at Full Sail University. Super stoked for you guys to be here and joining me today. We're going to be talking about all things esports, but most importantly, we're going to be talking about the industry of esports and what really goes into it, because I firmly believe that there's so much more to gaming and esports than just being good at the game. So we're going to jump into the industry. We've got an incredible guest here, a good friend of mine, Matthew Benson, the founder and CEO of eFuse. So we're going to go ahead and just, kick it off and get started with Matt. So let's just jump in. Matt, how are you doing today? Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the very first episode of Have Game Will Travel.
I feel honored, man. I'm excited to be here. Got the juice today, and anytime I get to see your beautiful face, you can't get any better than that.
Well, I appreciate it. So for our guests that are in chat, go ahead and just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and let's start there.
For sure. Yeah. So again, my name is Matt Benson. I am the co-founder and CEO of eFuse. I'm born and raised in Ohio. I grew up about an hour south of Columbus in a small town called Chillicothe. Only claim to fame is we were the first capital, so we're really proud of that. I'm actually rocking the 740 shirt today.
There we go.
So grew up in Chillicothe, went to school at Ohio University over in Athens, and then moved to Columbus after graduating from OU to work at a venture capital firm, and was investing in early stage companies alongside a couple other folks, and really loved that. And then in August 2018, left that job after about a year and a half and started eFuse. And it's been a wild ride ever since. And I'm sure we'll get into eFuse and that whole story, but it's been great, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's an incredible story, and I'm excited to share it with our guests today. But was eFuse your first entrance into esports and gaming, or is this something that you've been involved in prior?
Yeah, so I grew up, I would say, playing casually. It was primarily after traditional sports. I was hopping out with my buddies playing MW2. I grew up playing my brothers and all the sports titles, all the Smash title.
Yeah.
So it was something for me that we did. It was just a ton of fun, and it was something that we did casually. It wasn't until I went to OU where I actually had an opportunity to take an entire semester and just do research on esports and gaming. And that for me was like the aha moment of like, hey, this isn't just me and my brothers in the basement playing MW2. This is something much bigger than myself, and it's really something that's going to change the world. And from that moment onward, started building the business plan for eFuse, developed a 180-page report, and ultimately it turned into what eFuse is today, which is kind of crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think for myself, I started at a young age playing games, and I think there's so many people that have that same experience. For me, Doom was like one of the very first games that I fell in love with. For yourself, obviously a lot of Call of Duty. What was the first game that you really fell in love with?
That's a great question. You know what? I don't know if I grew up. So I have an older brother who's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
And he used to whoop me in FIFA with no remorse.
Yeah.
And I was just a little kid. He was bullying me. I think it was 2004 edition. So yeah, I think that's probably my first memory of playing video games, is that getting
That's
demolished
awesome.
by my older brother.
Yeah. And FIFA's come a long way since, obviously.
Yeah, in fact.
Well, cool. Well, so tell us, and obviously our audience here, tell us about what it's like. What a day in the life of Matt Benson is like as the CEO and founder of eFuse.
Yeah, so it's probably helpful if I paint a little color on what eFuse is too, just so everybody has some context. So eFuse at a high level, we're a software company based in Columbus. We've got about 63 employees now, growing pretty quickly. Founded in August 2018, and over the last 2.5, 3 years, have really scaled the business to be a software company that's building really cool infrastructure for esports and gaming. So we have a tournament system called the Arena. It's a white label solution where you can go and spin up a league. I think you all have actually used it, and it's come a long way. It's still growing, but it's been really great for us. And we run a lot of our leagues through that platform. We've also got a streaming tool called Clippy. It's kind of a suite of tools for creators that we just launched earlier this year. So we're building some really cool tools and initiatives It's been a ton of fun, and we've gotten to scale the business pretty quickly in a short period of time. But to get back to your initial question, my life has kind of changed a lot over the last 2 years and what I was doing. When we first started, it was just myself and my co-founder. We were actually in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere, just outside of Columbus, about 20 minutes outside of Columbus, and we had no idea what the hell we were doing. Candidly, we were trying to figure it out. And at that point, I'm doing a little bit of everything. I'm non-technical by nature, so I'm not building the product. I'm basically calling and dialing and trying to talk to anybody that'll listen to me, and telling them about eFuse and trying to recruit talent and trying to raise money. So back then it was a lot of IC work. I was doing a lot of the hands-on things. Now it's really evolved to where I'm almost completely out of the day-to-day execution and more managing leaders and managing team members. And that's really hard for me because I have the personality where I just want to get my hands in, like, get it done and go. So it's been a transition for me to step back and now have to coach people to go and execute and train them through that process instead of me actually being the one that does that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's great because I think there's so many, great minds out there, especially at eFuse. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of different people on your staff, and each one of them has a unique thing that they bring to the table. So being able to kind of be the director of that choir is a pretty cool achievement. So congrats on that. And obviously you kind of took us through the company already, which is great. And coming from the days in a a warehouse in the middle of nowhere to what you guys are doing is fantastic. Obviously for you, in what was it, 2001, you were selected for Forbes 30 under 30 for gaming. What was your reaction when you found out that you were being included in this list, and how has it really kind of affected your career and the company since that came out?
Yeah, it was such a cool honor. And really for me, like, it's a culmination of everybody else's work, right? I get to be lucky that I get to be the face to some extent, being the CEO, but really it's what eFuse accomplished. And that wasn't possible without the other 60 plus people that have been involved, and our partners too. Like, we have so many great people that work with us that allow us to do really cool things. So it was a great achievement, but I recognize, like, it's not really my doing; it's everybody else's doing. So I feel really honored and humbled. And growing up, it was something that I looked up to and was curious about. So it was really awesome to have that opportunity and go through it. And since I've had that award and that honor placed on me since 2021, it's opened up some really interesting doors. It's kind of funny how many people like take that thing so seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't change, right? The day it comes out, I'm the same person I was
Yep.
20 minutes ago. But I've definitely got a lot more when I walk into a room. I get a lot more, I guess, respect just off the jump, rather than just I guess not having it. So it's not changed a crazy amount, but it's been really cool to have, and it's been nice to walk into rooms and have people notice that, and I guess give me the initial blessing to come in
Right.
and speak my mind. So it's been nice.
Yeah, I think back to, it had to have been around 2018, and I'm walking through an inner practice facility here on campus, and my phone rings, and it's you, and you're telling me all about this, this new thing, eFuse, and obviously that conversation has led to many more. So when this honor, happened, I just remember being so excited for you guys and your team, and it's definitely quite the achievement. So.
I'll give you credit. I don't know what you were doing picking up my phone call. I probably didn't realize it was me. You're probably just like, still thought it was some spam. But no, dude, it's been crazy to see how you guys have progressed too, and to do it together.
Yeah.
And we're firm believers, and I think you all are too, that rising tides raise all ships.
Oh, yeah.
And to do a lot of these things together has just been so much fun. And we wouldn't be here without partners like you.
Well, I appreciate to be included in that. Obviously, talking about partners and things that you guys have been doing. One of the biggest announcements that you guys just made was that you were acquiring not only the College COD League (CCL) but also the Collegiate Carball or College Carball Association, which were two like monumental acquisitions for your team. Can you tell me just a little bit about why eFuse saw these leagues as kind of the future for your guys' strategy?
Yeah, 100%. And the way we think about everything that we do, our mission is we want to create opportunities for gamers, and really it's people, and using gaming as a means to change their life, right? And to us, these leagues represented exactly that. They were creating opportunities for students in a really cool way. They were giving them the opportunity to take their passion for gaming, their love for competition, step up and compete and potentially win some great prizing, but also build their brand and get some really cool experiences. And so that was the initial interest that was piqued for us. But as time went on and we started to interface with the CCL and CCA teams, what we realized is these are volunteers and they were out there pulling this together. And what they built being volunteers and in some instances students was really, really impressive.
Yeah.
And our mind was, imagine if they had the resources of a company like ours behind them, what could they accomplish? They've already got the community buy-in, they're great listeners, and they act very quickly. They've done a great job of building the competitive scene, but also building great productions around that. And what could we do by giving them full-time jobs plus some more resources to go and execute? And I think you've seen that pan out this year. Just as an example, the CCL, I think, had 160 teams last year.
Mm-hmm.
This year, they crossed the 270 mark.
Yeah, that's
and that's not completely on eFuse, but I'd like to think that we are a catalyst to that growth. So for us, we think about it as we want to create more opportunities for gamers. They were doing that in a really unique way, and we're just able to use our resources and our experience to take that to the next level.
Yeah, and really, help support that. They had built a great foundation. I think even when we started to get involved in those leagues, it was like these guys have it together. They know what they're doing. This is great. And so for you guys to come in and be able to support that and foster, even more great things out of those leagues is really a fantastic, acquisition for you guys.
And it's been cool too to for a lot of things, and it goes back to what you're just talking about, like that validation when you walk into a room. Like they were kids walking into a room, and the publishers wouldn't necessarily listen, brands wouldn't necessarily listen. They could speak to educators because they spoke the same language, but beyond that, it was really hard for them to get that validation. So I think one of the things that we've been able to do is bring that to the table and help them walk into rooms to now we're working directly with the publishers, where we're doing more events, we're bringing bigger partners, bigger brands. And I think that's been really exciting for the team. And it's also really exciting for the community, right? Ultimately, it's just driving more value for everybody that's participating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point too, because, no one owns basketball, right? But someone specifically owns Call of Duty, and that means there's a whole new thing that you have to navigate there. So for you guys to be able to, have an in already with that for the league, I think opens those doors, that normally most of the time could have been closed. So that's definitely a huge thing. I do also want to say, if you guys are in chat and you have any questions, we are going to leave some time at the end to ask Matt some questions. So feel free to put them in chat now. And we will kind of scroll through, towards the end of the show and go through those. But, to continue on, obviously we have a ton of students here at Full Sail that are looking to launch, products or develop their IPs when they graduate. And, one of the things that I've always respected about what eFuse was doing was kind of your investment rounds and getting started with investing. So, in 2021, you guys secured $6 million of investments from some pretty awesome, people, to name a few: NBA's Seth Curry, NFL's Odell Beckham Jr. and Denzel Ward, and that was just a small group of them. There was a lot of people really confident and excited about what eFuse was doing. What sort of advice would you give to students that are getting started in this process, that are maybe in that warehouse in the middle of nowhere, right now in that stage of things? What are the steps that they should be taking? What are the things that they should start to be thinking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if you haven't necessarily taken the step yet, I would just encourage you to take the leap. You never have it all figured out, and a lot of peak times, people will tell you you've got to build this big business plan. You've got to get it all planned out so you can go and execute. And the reality is, like, yes, you need to prepare and be excited about that and have a path forward. But there's never a better time than the present, and we're big believers in that. And in entrepreneurship, you've just got to take the leap of faith sometimes and build the airplane as you're trying to fly it. So I think that's piece one. Piece two is, as a founder in a business, you've got to be really self-aware about what you stink at and where you need to go get other people. For me, right? Again, I'm non-technical. I can't build a platform. We're a software company and I can't build software. That's an issue. I got to go find somebody that can help me do that, right?
Right.
So I'm fortunate that I have an unbelievable co-founder, Austin May, who's been with me from the beginning, and he built the initial MVP. And since then, we've gone out and we've hired great engineering talent. And eventually it said, okay, we've got to go get marketing talent. So we've always had that self-awareness, and we've kept each other accountable to that. And it's allowed us to bring in really great people, as you mentioned, to go and execute at a high level. So that's kind of piece 2. And then piece 3 on the funding, I think it's important to know first that some businesses don't need it. But for a company like ours, where we're in an industry that's growing so quickly, there's already big players that have a lot of money behind them, and we're trying to go in and take up some of that market share. We could have came in and slowly climbed our way in, but we wouldn't be where we are today. So venture capital and investment for us was a means to expedite the growth of the business and grab up more land share. So with that in mind, if you decide that venture capital is the way for you to go, I think it's a couple of things to keep in mind. First is it's a really hard thing. You're going to hear predominantly no's. And just to give you some context, when I first raised the initial round for eFuse, we started raising in January of 2019. We didn't close the round until August of 2019. So 8 months. And over the course of that time, I had 200 people tell me no, and call it 10 people that said yes. So especially as a first-time founder, it can be really hard to hear no, and not get discouraged. You've got to push through that and realize it's part of the process. So that's piece 1. Piece 2 is, as you're going through the investment relationship piece, you've got to realize that it is a relationship. And I think about this the same in a partnership too. If you go into a partnership or a relationship and you just go to get something, if you just go to get the dollar, it's never going to really mean anything. They're not going to be excited about it. They're not going to want to be involved. And that was a learning process for me in the fundraising piece. Is you can't just go in and ask somebody for $100,000 of their hard-earned money to come into your business and just treat them like a transaction. It's got to be about a relationship, and building that relationship first. That's when they'll invest in you. And in the early days, we didn't have a platform. We had a slide deck that showed what it could be, and we had to raise money off of that and then say, hey, trust us, these young kids, basically, to go and execute against it. We need a couple $1 million to go do it, by the way. So with that in mind, you've got to really convince people that you're the person that can deliver. And once you do that and you build these relationships, eventually the dominoes start to fall. And then after that, you've got to actually execute. And then this last round that you were mentioning, that's based off of execution. We're fortunate that we did really well. And we hit the goals that we said we'd hit. And that allowed us to go do this bigger raise and bring in some other people like Odell Beckham Jr. and Zeke Elliott, and these people that not only have some money that they can invest, but beyond that, they're great people that can add strategic value as individuals too.
Yeah, and I think there's a quote of you online saying they're not just star athletes; they're savvy business owners. Which is huge as well. So they bring a lot to the table in other ways other than just funding, right?
And I think it's important too. Like, one thing I love about these folks is they really get the gaming industry. Like, you can have these big VCs that have no idea what the hell's going on in the industry. They just have the money and they know it's hot and they want to throw money at it. But when you get guys like Zeke and OBJ and Seth and D'Angelo Russell, when they're not playing their traditional sports, they're at home playing video games.
Yeah.
So to them, it's a second nature, and they really understand the landscape. And a lot of people equate them to these dumb jocks, but in reality, like, they're really savvy business people, and we're fortunate to have them. And they've done some really great work with us outside of just the investment.
Yeah, definitely. And so another follow-up question to the kind of investing world. And I know that you kind of mentioned one of them being a lot of people saying no and getting, not getting down on that. But did you encounter any other like roadblocks along the way when you were launching eFuse, and how did you solve those problems?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think from the funding perspective, especially if you're a first-time founder, I would really encourage you to get mentors. And for me, those mentors were important because they helped me understand the process. And I was fortunate that I was on the venture capital side before I started eFuse. So I got to see what that process looked like. I got to see how you go build decks and how you talk to these investors. Most people don't have that exposure. So you've got to do a great job of finding mentors that can educate you and learn through the process of what materials do you have to provide to even generate and bring some investment in. So that was a learning curve, even though I had been on the other side. So I can imagine that's a learning curve for a lot of people. So that's piece 1. I think other hurdles that we encountered along the way, software is particularly for us, like software takes time to build. It's not like you can snap your fingers and have it.
If only it was that easy, right?
Right. And it never stops too. There's always something else you can add on,
Mhm.
or always something else you can refine. And that was a really hard thing for me to learn, particularly because again, I'm a go, go, go kind of person. And to step back and say, hey, we've got to do this the right way. Let's not cut corners. That was a curve that we've continued to have to get around. So just trusting the process, staying patient, and bringing the right people around you, and getting good mentors and great people to work with. Like that to me is the key to success. If you show up every day, you work your butt off, and you have great people to do it with, eventually, and you treat people the right way, you have relationships before the transactions, like eventually things work out in your favor.
Definitely. And just a reminder to our viewers on Twitch, if you have any questions for Matt, definitely throw them in chat. We'll be happy to have him answer those. Right now, I see a lot of PK fan clubs, which is always funny. But I think one of the things that really hit home for me this past couple weeks ago, we just came off of our Hall of Fame, which is our big kind of homecoming, if you will, at Full Sail, where we close down school and we invite all of our grads back, and we induct 6 brand new grads into our Hall of Fame, where they've gone off. It's been 10 years since they graduated, but they've had a significant impact in the industry. But more importantly, they've come back and invested their time in our current students, doing lectures, going over resumes and portfolios, and doing all of those types of things. And during this Hall of Fame celebration, we hold a lot of panels. And one of the panels, we had a ton of our grads that are out there currently working in esports, and specifically running programs at other institutions, which we're really proud of seeing. Our grads go out and do these things. But one of the big questions that I kept getting from a few of them was I need help with recruiting. I have to meet these numbers each year, and sometimes it's challenging. I'm in a small school in wherever, and you guys actually have launched a pretty cool product called the Pipeline, and I would love for you to talk about the Pipeline and just kind of give maybe some overview on how colleges and players can use it to really start building not only their portfolio, but also as a recruiter, finding the talent that they may be able to recruit.
Yeah, it's a great thought, and I think about it in very similar lane as traditional sports.
Right.
Traditional sports, right? You've got these systems already in place to be able to find the next best talent. PK, our chief strategy officer, often uses the tagline, Coach K and every other coach in the nation knew Zion was the best basketball player coming out of high school. Does every coach in esports today know the best Overwatch player that's coming out? I would argue no.
Yeah.
And I think that's not because of lack of an effort. It's because the way that gaming is, it's anonymized. You don't have a lot of the demographic information. It's hard to get them in competitive scenes to really know like what true talent is, and pair that with all the demographic information you need. So to us, it was, how can we help solve that problem? Because recruitment is, to your point, such an important piece to a university, but also to building a team out. So we set forth and we started to pull together some of the best programs that we thought across the nation, yourself included, right? And started sitting down with these program leads and said, hey, what are the pieces we need to do and understand to really build a great product? And we started there. We gathered all this information. We then went to the publishers and started asking, hey, we need to get some of this data. How can we go about it? And eventually it got us to a point where we had all the information we needed, and we developed a system called Pipeline. And at a high level, Pipeline is the ESPN Top 100 leaderboard for gaming high schoolers. And we have direct in-game integrations for all the Riot titles. We're in the process of adding in a lot of the other titles as well. Fortnite, Rocket League, 2K. It's going to be really, really cool what we're able to accomplish. But our hope is the definitive leaderboard system for high school recruits in the next couple of years. And we've been fortunate to bring in some great program directors that are now actually recruiting from that system. So it provides validation on statistics. It's pairing it with the demographic information of who these people are, what do they care about, how old are they, which are things that we may take for granted, but are really important if you want to recruit them to your school, you don't want to be recruiting a 12-year-old, right?
Right.
So it's been a really cool process, and we're really proud of the pipeline. I think it's just scratching the surface of what it can become. But it's going to be really cool to see it evolve over the next couple of years.
Absolutely. So if you're listening to this or watching it live or on the VOD, definitely make sure you go over to eFuse, sign up for the platform, and link all your accounts so you can be part of this, especially if you're trying to go to school to play games. I mean, this is a huge deal to get your info out there, your stats, and get discovered, right?
And I think that's one piece of it for sure. And that's really down the competitive alleyway. And I would definitely encourage those that are esports competitors to go down that pathway. But there's also a lot of other opportunities that I think are really important to touch on: scholarships, team openings, tournaments to play in on the weekend. Those opportunities exist on eFuse too. So I'm going to do my selfless plug here and say, go check those out. We have over 35,000 opportunities that have been created on the platform. So go check it out. It doesn't just have to be an esports competitor. You can be looking for a job. You can be a content creator. There's a lot of cool opportunities available for you.
Absolutely. And I think that really kind of lends into the show itself, is that there are so many other ways to interact with esports outside of being a pro and being good at the game, right? There's a whole industry
100%.
that goes into making these things happen. I mean, you've seen it firsthand living where you do. Obviously Esports Engine that's home base. MLG, that was where it all started. So I mean, that's a really important topic for a lot of people to hear, is that even if you don't know anything about esports, there's still a way, if you have a talent in an area that is a direct support system of the industry. I mean, that's a lot of opportunity for you, which 100%. Is really cool.
And I think, just speaking from like firsthand knowledge of like inside our company, I think of the roles we've hired.
Yeah,
we've hired marketers, we've hired comp ops folks, we've hired software engineers, product managers, product designers, partnerships folks. I mean, the whole gamut of operations. We've hired a lot of different types of roles, and just our company alone, we're at the 63-ish we are today. By the end of the year, we want to be at 125. So we're going to be doubling, and that's just one company. I know Esports Engine's had even crazier growth. I think they're a couple hundred people now.
Right.
They seem to be hiring everybody. And it's just, to your point, a testament that if you want to be in the industry, there are opportunities, and there's a lot of different roles that are available for the passion that you have, whether that's being a software engineer or marketer. Those roles exist. So be sure to check them out.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, I mean, I think this industry is steamrolling through things, which is great. A question that I always get asked when I'm on a panel is, where do you see the future of esports in the next 5 to 10 years? But I think more specifically for you, what kind of technology will be important as the esports industry continues to expand? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. I think I'll answer it in kind of twofold. I think generally, like the industry we're going to see a lot of consolidation. I think that there's been a lot of players, and there were some folks that came in for a cash grab.
Yep.
And it polarized a lot of individuals in the industry. But those people are, I think, in a good way, are starting to be called out and identified. And the people that are here for the right reasons, that care about the industry and that have built great products, those are going to rise to the top. It's always this way. The cream of the crop will rise, and consolidation is happening. So what I think is still a missing link, and where we're trying to plug in, is the infrastructure needed to support such growth. I mean, you look at traditional sports, just to go back to that example, there's so much technology and infrastructure, both in the physical world, but also the digital world, that exist to support that industry, and to support the storytelling, the competition, everything that goes into making a sport. And that doesn't really exist in gaming. And it's not necessarily easily adaptable from traditional sports, because there are so many nuances depending on the game, and depending on the competitive structure, depending on the region, that can't be addressed aside from a company like ours coming in and specifically hitting it head on. So that to me is a big opportunity. And there's plenty more needs that we're not filling, that other companies are trying to fill too, that I think are really relevant and really important. So technology, infrastructure, and infrastructure more broadly, as the industry is growing at this rapid pace, I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said too. I mean, each game is its own sport, and it comes with a ton of different things that are unique to that individual game, and you have to be knowledgeable, especially if you're on the front lines of that, with specifically what that game is. And that's really it. There's not necessarily one solution for all of esports when it comes to that. So
And I think too, like on that narrative, like these games come and go,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you almost have to create a templated approach. And this game didn't come and go. I would say it's back. I mean, look at Fortnite.
Yeah.
A week ago that you could build.
Yeah.
Today you can't, right? Like it completely changes the dynamic of the game, and you've got to be able to support and audible and be agile to I guess execute events around that and build software around that. So it's an exciting challenge. It's a really hard challenge though too, if you're a company like ours and others in the industry.
Yeah, I haven't played Fortnite in years. I'm probably since it originally came out, and I re-downloaded and played it because I was
love it.
No building, that's perfect for me. I can shoot, and that's it. Like it works.
Yeah.
So, smart move. I'm sure future scholars will go through the numbers of how many people came back to the game specifically because they took the building out. I'm sure it's going to come back, obviously, but it will be a really unique study to look at. Is like the influx of people that return that were previous players that just disappeared, and then the amount of money that those players may have reinvested now in the game when all of those things happen. So definitely it will be fun to see those maybe years from now, some studies come out about it.
It's a great lesson for people as entrepreneurs too. That the way I think about it, like they've reinvented themselves so many times now with different IP, with different functions in the game, and they've kept themselves relevant. I think they're going to continue to do that. And when I look around the industry, like that's what we aspire to be too, is like we want to be the cutting edge. We want to constantly redefine what's out there, because that's what gets people excited and gets you and I to re-download the game and come back. It's always new. It's always agile. It's always growing and becoming more.
Awesome. So there is a question in the chat. Do you have a favorite streamer?
That's a great question. I love Legion.
Yeah, same.
I love Legion. I'm going to go with Legion.
All right, I like
I'm also a big Choco Taco guy.
Yeah.
Choco Taco is one of the first believers in eFuse. And then I actually went to school with Maddie and F down at Complexity. So I love watching Maddie as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, Legion meaning it was the Call of Duty weekend launch. Went out to dinner with him and Burns. And I couldn't eat. I was just laughing. The guy's hilarious. It's not like I'm just going to turn it on and off. It was just consistently, he was funny, and I had a great time. So I became an instant fan at that moment, for sure.
He's such a good person too. Such a good person.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're kind of wrapping up here, but I did want to leave with one question, is basically, we have a ton of hungry students out there looking to make their way into the industry. What sort of advice would you share with them about breaking into the world of esports, and any guidance that you see there that maybe you've seen from your perspective that goes, hey, maybe just don't do this,
Yeah, it's a great thought. I think that there's a couple things you can do. One is be persistent in your relationship building. Don't reach out necessarily with an ask. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in a role and an opportunity, like make sure you do your homework. One of the worst things is when I get a DM on LinkedIn that says, hey, can I have a job? It's like, did you look at the job board? Do you even know what the opportunities that exist? Like, do your homework and do your research. I think beyond that too, build relationships with different companies and get a feel for the needs that they have. One of the favorite things I have, or that I've seen, is when an individual will think about a problem that my business has and propose a solution to me in their initial message of like, hey, I went through the app and I saw XYZ was an issue. You should fix that. And it's like, you put time and energy into thinking about how to make my business better and our business better. I want to help you now. Like, it's almost like this goodwill that you build. So little things like that may seem small, but they go a long way. And the relationship building you can do by doing your research, being kind, being thoughtful goes a long way and catches people's eyes.
Yeah, I like what you said there about it's easy to say, oh, this is broken, but if you're like, hey, this is broken, but I see this way to fix it, like that's sharing ideas and kind of bringing more constructive feedback that's going to be meaningful, maybe have an impact on the app or the service or whatever it may be, which is great. So
we just hired.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we just hired a woman that is joining our partnerships team that did exactly that. I just think she came into her interview and the first thing out of her mouth was, hey, I was playing around the app and I saw XYZ. I think this could be a really cool opportunity to iterate. And the fact that she's on the partnership side and was thinking about that, I think is just a great testament to doing it the right way and being thoughtful. So.
Very cool. Well, I want to give you some time to do all the shout outs that you want. Tell people where they can find you. Obviously give plugs for eFuse and how to sign up. So go ahead. Where can they find you?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me. This is a ton of fun. And anytime I get to see you and we get to shoot the stuff, it's a lot of fun. I don't know if we could curse on here, so I caught myself. I'm usually pretty bad about that.
Yeah, it's all good.
but it's been a ton of fun. But as far as eFuse goes, you can check us out at eFuse.gg. We have a lot of really exciting stuff coming up. If you're a college student that's interested in playing in a league, we now have Fortnite. We've got Call of Duty. We've got Rocket League. Check it out. There's more titles coming, and there's just a ton of opportunities. So just check it out. Go register. If I can ever be of help, please reach out. My DMs are open on pretty much all channels. So appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Well, you're always a friend of Full Sail. And just like Jacob said here in chat, we're going to have to get you down on campus here one of these days. But thank you for coming, and everybody that's watching. Thank you guys for being here for the very first episode of Have Game Will Travel. We will be back next month and with some new fun guests. But thank you for hanging out with us today. We will see you later, and take it easy.